Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios, it's time for Women in Motion. Brought to you by WBEC West. Join forces, succeed together. Now, here's your host.
Lee Kantor here, another episode of Women in Motion, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, Webeck West. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. Today on Women in Motion, we have Mariya with a Y, and she is the CEO of Globafly. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
Well, I am so excited to get to know you and your business. Tell us a little bit about Globafly. How are you serving folks?
Oh, God. Well, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory on Globafly, because every time people ask me about how I got into advertising, I love sharing the why behind things, and it kind of goes with Mariya with the why, because everything I do has to have a why. And so I've been a serial entrepreneur for many years, since grad school, actually. And when I started my startups, a lot of them were online back from 2002. I realized that I was really good at marketing and sales. And one of my companies, it was a shoe company, I ended up getting VCs invested in it. And the VCs pulled me aside and said, how do you sell $3,000 shoes online? And I basically, as a joke, gave them a few pointers, but then as a joke, I said, you have to pay me to get the rest of the secrets. And that's how I got into advertising. And so to sum it up, what we do is we do city takeovers, and we utilize multi-channel approach and very community centered, but it's a combination of traditional channels as well as emerging channels like podcast, audio, streaming, programmatic ads. And as an entrepreneur, as a serial entrepreneur, it's very important for me to really help shine a light on some of these amazing brands that are out there providing great products and services. So in a sense, I feel like I'm continuing to be a serial entrepreneur through the journey of helping our clients grow continuously, because they are all in different sectors. We've got the government sector, we've got smaller startups that are in the beauty industry, and much, much more.
Now, you use the term city takeover. Can you talk about what that means and what it's like when you do a city takeover?
Yeah, it actually the idea came to me when I was working at New York Times, spearheading the influencer marketing department. I was a director of execution team. And a lot of the brands back then were coming in, and I'm talking about Louis Vuitton and Cartier and Royal Caribbean, huge brands that would just spend so much money on influencers. And a lot of the times the complaints were, we don't know what's happening with our ad dollars. We're spending all this money on influencers. And so the idea came to me because I was trying to solve that problem of trying to understand what is happening to our clients' money. Are they seeing results? And I suggested to run run the campaign at a city level rather than a national campaign. And what we did is we ran a campaign that was targeting 4 or 5 cities approximately. And we ended up looking at the data analytics, trying to see how the campaign impacted sales. And when you're talking about a big brand like Cartier, it's extremely hard to tell, right, how the campaign impacted. But when you're looking at the city level, you're able to see it. And so really the concept came from working with larger brands and trying to help them understand what's happening. And I sort of took that approach, and I fell in love with the idea of really understanding each city that we're going in. And it's not just about, understanding the data and looking at analytics and saying, oh, we tested in Los Angeles, did a campaign in LA, and now our sales grew 10%. That means our ads are working. It's not just that. It's really connecting with the community, making sure that the ads are relevant to the people that we are talking to in that specific community. And sometimes, like for example, Los Angeles, where I'm from, LA has communities. So when a client comes and tells me, oh, I want to market to everyone in Los Angeles, I'm like, wait. There are so many sub communities in Los Angeles, and you can't take that same creative approach and try to go after all of them. And so that's where we come in, where we're very sensitive to different diverse communities, and we make sure that the creative content resonates with the audience that we're trying to reach. And a good example of that would be, if we're trying to, let's say, reach the Middle Eastern community in Los Angeles, well, we first partner with Middle Eastern influencers, and the influencers aren't necessarily only influencers on social media. They could be radio hosts. They could be TV personalities. They could be moms and pops. It all depends on who we're trying to reach. And then we have these people act like the ambassadors of the brand. They create the content, and then that's where we come in, helping the brands connect with these influential people in these diverse communities. And then once the content is created by these individuals, then we amplify the content through traditional media like billboards, as well as digital billboards, and then streaming and audio and so on. So it's a very community centered, but also 360 tech driven approach.
And then how long does a takeover last? Is it something that once you go to a market, then you're there permanently, or is it like
It all depends. It all depends on our clients' budgets. We have clients that are doing it ongoing, and they're literally running national campaigns in different cities, right? Like we started with a few cities, tested the model, and then realized what works, which channels work for them, and then just duplicated that model across many different cities. But generally, when the client comes to us with, let's say, $100,000, we won't take that money and spread it all over the nation. We'll just focus on the top few cities that they are interested in growing, and then come up with a strategy, partner them with the right influential people, and then start the campaign. And again, it all depends on what the goal of the campaign is. And are we trying to get customers for them, or is it just brand awareness? And then depending on that the money can go as far as, it can, based on the goal, the KPI of the campaign.
And does it work primarily, do you work primarily with B2C brands, or B2B, or government, or nonprofits? Like, is there a niche that you're in?
Great question. So I started in the tech space initially, LegalZoom, ZipRecruiter, MeUndies, Blue Apron, Boll and Branch. Those were really the tech companies that we became really, really good at, helping them scale and grow really rapidly, using a lot of the traditional as well as emerging channels like the podcast and radio and audio space. But then after that, while we were growing in the tech space, we started taking on more auto brands. And then when the pandemic happened, I decided to utilize our buying power and help some of the amazing government programs that are out there. And that's when I became actually WEBEX certified to be able to take on federal contracts and be able to assist government entities like Department of Labor to promote their amazing programs that they have out there, whether it's for youth or underserved communities and so on. So I would say we have a really good, diverse client base. It kind of goes across the tech space, all the way from tech to the government sector, corporations, as well as Fortune 500 and 100 companies. But in terms of specific industries, we're really good at pretty much anybody who's trying to reach direct to consumer, is trying to promote a product or a service direct to consumer. B2B, we've obviously helped B2B as well. I would say LegalZoom and ZipRecruiter are the best two examples that, we've seen a lot of success, and, it's utilizing radio shows, for example, that we know small businesses are listening to and promoting, business related products and services to them. So I would say probably both, leaning more towards B2C, but we are pretty good at helping B2B companies as well.
Now, a lot of the listeners of this show are business owners, and you are an expert in marketing and advertising. Any advice for them when it comes to marketing and advertising in order to get the most bang for their buck? Like, what advice would you give an entrepreneur listening on, how to leverage marketing and advertising in their business?
That's a great question. Recently I was part of a webinar where a woman-owned business owner asked if she could do a billboard advertising, and the host who was promoting or teaching them about marketing said, "No, billboards are so expensive." And here I am listening to the webinar, and I'm just like, "No, they're not. Please don't give up on the idea." And so the reason why I'm bringing this example is I want the listeners to know that technology has given us the ability to be able to buy anything and everything that we want that 10, 20 years ago wasn't possible for small businesses to touch. Like, for example, if you want to have TV ads 10 years ago were so expensive, only the large corporations could do. But nowadays, a small brand that has $2,000 can have a TV ad, right? Because of the way things are available now. There's programmatic buys. There's, programmatic audio buys where, if you want to partner with a radio station, there are ways to buy it inexpensively and test out that channel. So the advice I have is don't just assume and say, oh, this channel could be too expensive for me to try, or this is not, I'm not there yet. I can't afford this. Technology has changed so much to the point where you can be on a billboard for $500 a month. And yes, I'm going to repeat that. You can be on a big digital billboard for $500 a month. And these are $18,000, $20,000 billboards, but you can get in for $500 a month. What you do is you buy a few hour time slots per day versus paying for 24 hours. So that's one example of how everything that is out there can be so possible and attainable for any business at any size. So I would encourage them to just look, maybe just simply reach out to me and I can give them the advice and tell them where they could go to purchase some of these channels and be able to test, because there are a lot of technologies out there that are making it available for anybody to do it themselves too. You don't need an ad agency necessarily to buy these media channels for them.
Now, who is your ideal client? Is it, do you work with the cities to attract more brands to the city, or do you get the brand first and say, what city do you want to go to?
Another great question. So ideally, it's the brands that are trying to grow in a particular city will come to us and say, here's what we need. And a lot of times, being a serial entrepreneur and having so many startups of my own, I'll look at their budget. And a lot of times I might say, listen, this is something you can do in-house. Let us train you and teach you how to do it in-house. This will be more cost effective. A lot of times, if they don't have the bandwidth or they do want us to provide that service for them, we'll go ahead and execute it for them. But generally, brands will come to us and say, these are the top cities we want to be in. Help us get in and acquire new customers. Like I said, we provide two different services. It's either training your in-house team on how to do this yourself, which can be very affordable because then you're not really, there is no minimum budgets that you have to abide by, and you could just simply start and end campaigns as you go. Or you could just hire us to help you with strategy as well as the execution piece, the advertising campaign.
Now, why was it important for you to become part of the WeBec West community? You mentioned you were kind of hoping, I would imagine, to leverage to get access to government contracts, but was that kind of the reason at first, and maybe it's expanded since then?
Yes, that has been the reason from the beginning. To be honest with you, when I love helping the tech industry. I really do. But obviously the pandemic impacted a lot of industries, not just the tech, but the auto industry as well. And I just felt like I wanted to do something that was a little bit more impactful and really helping my community. And when I started researching all these different government programs, I realized that they're still so old fashioned in the way that they communicate to the public and share the programs that are out there, especially specifically the ones that are targeted towards youth. And I decided that I want to use my buying powers and help some of these programs. And as I was researching, I realized that, I need certain certifications to qualify for the federal contracts. And I honestly, I'm so thankful for WeBack West specifically, because I want to say 2 months after I got my certification, I ended up getting my first contract with Department of Labor. And then in the last 3.5 years from that one contract, I went on to 23 different contracts now. And so I'm very thankful for the certification. And now I'm exploring even, I'm going above and beyond, where now I'm looking into corporate, more corporate, accounts or clients that I can potentially go in and help the team get trained if needed, or, just sort of expand a little bit more. But generally, mainly I would say my WeBack certification was and has been helpful for the government sector, for me specifically.
So what do you need more of right now for Globafly in your growth kind of trajectory, and how can we help you?
Oh, thank you. No one ever asks me that question. I love it. I would love to be able to help and train a lot of the smaller businesses and show them the way that they can really grow their brands effectively and use a lot of these emerging channels that are out there. I love teaching and training, and I'm one of those people where, instead of upselling, I tend to downsell. If a client comes and they're like, I want to do this, and I'm like, wait, don't waste all your money on this. Let's do this first and make sure that it's, generating ROI before we jump on to the next one. And I think it's probably because I've had my own startups where I had to be bootstrapped, and I have this, my heart gets so soft towards, women, especially women entrepreneurs. And so I would say, I just would love the opportunity to train and teach others on how to develop a really solid marketing team internally. Because, with AI and everything else that's available to us, there's no reason why every company should not have a really solid marketing team or department in-house. So my hope is to do that, to teach and train for everybody out there to be able to have advanced marketing strategies and campaigns and be able to promote and grow. Because without marketing, you cannot grow. You have to create awareness about your product or service in order to grow. And sales is the key for any business to succeed.
So if somebody wants to learn more about Globafly or connect with you, what is the website? What is the best way to connect with you?
Just reach out to me through Globafly, globafly.com or Mariya@globafly.com, or they can just follow me on Instagram and connect me through Instagram, Mariya with a Y.
And the website is globafly.com.
Correct.
Well, Mariya with a Y, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing such important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the work that you do too, shining a light on all these amazing women out there. Thank you so much.
All right, this is Lee Kantor. We'll see you all next time on Women in Motion.